Kia ora. In this video we're going to have a look at using NZGrapher for time series investigations, specifically around the new Level 1 content. Before we dive into using NZGrapher, let's have a quick look at what the information from nca.education has to say. For a time series investigation, we're wanting to describe trends, seasonality or cycles, patterns, variation and unusual values. Time series investigations are useful for making forecasts into the future, and so an investigation should include a forecast. Sometimes students will work out that making a forecast is not appropriate, and students should be justifying that decision with non-trivial explanations. The features we want to be looking at are the trend, any unusual or interesting data points like spikes or troughs, any seasonality or cycles that we can see happening, any other patterns we can see going on. For this video, we're going to have a look at the sea ice data set. I've taken the last 5 years, so 2018 through to 2022, because the data set that I've got was last updated in January 2023. Variables we're going to be looking at is the month of the data and the millions of square kilometres of ice in Antarctica. So let's jump into NZGrapher and have a look at that. So in NZGrapher, the graph type that I want is the time series graph. Not the recomposition, the seasonal effects, or the forecasts. For level 1, we just want to be using this time series graph. So for variable 1, we want to have a look at the date, so that's our time variable, and variable 2, we're going to come and have a look at the Antarctic. So this is the millions of square kilometres of sea ice in Antarctica. If I hover over any of these points, it'll tell me what month it is, so I can see here that there is February. Again, our bottom one here is February. I can come up and I can have a look and I can see that there is September. Let's come along and give our graph a title and label our axes properly. So this here is the area of sea ice in Antarctica. Date is perfectly fine, and Antarctic sea ice, which is in million square kilometers. And if I press update, that'll update my graph. What is often useful is to show the dots. So this makes more visual dots on the graph, and I can also tick this seasonal box, which comes along and colors those points by the season. So we can see down the bottom here, we've got this yellow one, the yellow one, the yellow one, the yellow one, and the yellow one. And if I hover over it, it'll tell me what month that is. So every single February is where we have the lowest amount of sea ice. So students could be reasoning why that might be the case. And up the top here, we've got this purple, we've got the purple, we've got the purple. This one, the purple isn't the highest. This one here, the purple is a little bit lower. And then again, the purple is the highest. So that there is in month 9, which is September. So we can see that consistently we're getting the highest amount of sea ice in September, except for in 2021, where we ended up with a slightly lower amount of sea ice in September than we did in August. We can also visually track what's happening to the amount of sea ice in these different months throughout the year by following along those same coloured points. Overall, looking at this, we can see that our trend seems to be pretty flat. If I tick this long-term trend tick box, it comes along and adds in a long-term trend line in. I'm going to untick this seasonal tick box because that is beyond the scope of level 1. And from this though, we can see that our trend is pretty flat. There is a little bit of a decline going on in the last couple of years there, but overall the trend is reasonably flat. So if I was to make predictions, I'd predict that it's probably going to stay relatively similar to what we see going on at the moment. So that's a bit of an overview on how to use NZGrapher for time series.